Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Magnus Carlsen playing Titled Tuesday. He is on a 10-game win streak. He's playing Javo, and Magnus decides to play e5 here. We have knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4, which is the Italian. Please like and subscribe, it really helps out the video. And normally, as white, you'd play here, but that is the Ruy Lopez, this is the Italian. Very different openings. And we have knight f6 and knight to g5, which is a crazy opening against Magnus Carlsen. He's playing the fried liver, which is insane. Magnus obviously plays the best move of d5. We have pawn takes and knight to a5 attacking this bishop. The bishop obviously goes forwards to check the king, and Magnus defends with the bishop. We have queen to e2, defending this bishop now. Instead of just taking, queen takes back, and you're probably pretty bad on development. We have bishop to e7 now, and knight drops back to f3, attacking this pawn in the center. We have castles, and bishop takes the knight that was defending. Sorry, that's a bishop. Bishop takes the bishop, and now we have queen takes back, knight takes the undefended pawn. This queen is getting threatened, so you have to move it. He takes this pawn back, so now they're equal on material, but white has a slight advantage. White castles and black plays bishop to d6. Obviously, this is all played in 3 minutes, so his opponent has only used 20 seconds. Magnus has almost used a minute, but Magnus can play games very quickly and very accurately. We have knight dropping back, rook dropping onto e8, and queen goes back to its starting square. Knight goes to c6, knight jumps into c3, attacking the queen, and the queen slides all the way over to h5, hitting this knight, and also threatening checkmate if this knight were to move anywhere. Say it drops here, that is checkmate. So, he obviously doesn't drop checkmate in one move, but he plays d3, an amazing move, ready to develop this bishop, and Magnus just jumps his knight on, trying to make him trade it off, because if you take here, it's game over, and Magnus gets 11 wins in a row, which would be crazy, but he plays h3, stopping that from happening. And if you take now, it's no longer checkmate immediately. We have takes, queen takes, because obviously you don't want to destroy your pawn structure by taking with a pawn. Queen takes, pawn takes, and your pawn structure is destroyed. And Magnus has a pretty good position, but white is still very liked here. I don't know why exactly. I guess he's up a pawn, but yeah, so he's up a pawn, but he's also up a lot on the clock. He is up quite a lot on the clock, which could go pretty bad here for Magnus. Magnus is at a minute. He's at a minute 24. He spent a minute. Wow, he spent a minute and 5 seconds on bishop to d2. He's in a winning position. Maybe not winning, but he's a little bit better. He's a pawn, and Magnus plays knight to h5. We have rook to e1. Rook slides over to g6, check. King slides over to f1, and we have bishop to f4, trying to trade off the bishops. The bishops do not trade off. Javo wants to trade off the bishops here and develop his pawns to be on better squares. Magnus says no thank you and plays h6 instead. We have knight jumping on d5, really trying to trade off those bishops. Just take it or force you to take, but Magnus just drops it back to d6. We have bishop dropping to d2, and c6 is a huge mistake by Magnus. It allows knight to e7, the only winning move, because it forks the king and the rook. You might be thinking, well, you can just take back with the bishop, and this is exactly what happens. But after this rook gets on the e7, you're hitting this pawn, it is defended, but you're attacking this pawn, and the pawn goes forwards, but then he puts his other rook here. He's threatening this, and then when you take back, and you're going to win all these pawns, so he has to defend it. He plays king over. Now, if you go here, he takes. You can't take back because then you take and you're just down a rook, so you would never play that. We have rook to c7 attacking this pawn. It is defended by the rook already, so Magnus just uses his tempo to attack this pawn, and he's completely losing because both of these rooks are on the 7th rank, which is very important, and pigs on the 7th is a very common tactic, and Magnus plays a5. He's trying to keep it cool. He is making time back on the clock, 41 seconds to 19, but 19 seconds is very hard to play an accurate endgame. especially because his opponent makes a mistake here. If this was a classical game, Magnus would have found c5, but instead he plays rook f5, which immediately drops this pawn. I don't know why you can't just take it, because it looks really good. Oh, king takes e7. You drop your rook. Okay, well, I'm dumb. So after that, his opponent tries to trade off the rooks. Magnus decides not to, puts his rook on d8, and now we have bishop to e3, which is another mistake by his opponent. But Magnus is in such a bad position that it doesn't matter. He finds the c5 move, but he's only at 10 seconds, and this is only half of the game so far. Half of the game, and he's at 10 seconds. So I'm going to do this a lot quicker. We have a4, knight jumps in, check, bishop takes, rook takes, and now we have 2 rooks versus 2 rooks. These rooks are better positioned than Magnus's, and white is up a pawn in this position. We have rook dropping back to e4, rook dropping back to f6, and b3 now by his opponent. And after g6, Magnus is actually shaping up pretty well, and they have increment, so they are getting some time back, but 11 to 25, 11 to 16, they're pretty close on time. 10 seconds to 16, king goes to g7, and rook just drops back to e5. These rooks aren't actually as well positioned as they were a second ago when they were both on this, but they couldn't really do anything. So now he's trying to just create some other threats on the pawns. Magnus plays rook to d7. We have f4. Rook drops back to d8. He's just shuffling his pieces around, trying to get some more time maybe. King goes to f3. Rook slides over. King over. Rook goes up. Pawn forwards. Rook drops back. Pawn to h4. Rook to f6. King forwards. And this king activity is amazing. This is probably what is going to win him the game. We have rook to d4. King drops back. Rook to d6. I don't know if you can take there. I don't know if it's good. 1 rook and 1 rook. It looks a little scary. It might be draw. We have rook going to e8, and now rook to f5. Rook drops back to e5. King jumps in. Rook takes, king takes, and white should still be winning this. He is up a pawn, and they are doubled, but still. Being up a pawn, you should be pretty good. We have rook check, king drops back. King slides back to f2, and now the rook jumps into d4. King slides up, rook drops back, and Magnus makes another mistake. He was losing here. He's down a pawn, but like now he allows his opponent to go c3 and push these pawns and win the game, which is exactly what he plays. He sees it in time. They're both under 10 seconds, which is crazy. We have king dropping back to g7 by Magnus, pawn forwards, pawn takes, and now f6 by Magnus, allowing the rook check, and now you are losing these pawns. There's nothing you can really do about it, because this pawn comes into f5, pawn takes, and rook takes h5. Magnus is completely losing. He plays king f7. We take the other pawn with the rook, and Magnus he's down 2 pawns in an endgame with only rooks. There's nothing he can really do. His opponent just completely crushes him, and Magnus just keeps on fighting. He doesn't stop fighting. That's what you should learn from this video. Magnus doesn't stop fighting, so you shouldn't either. Don't resign when you're down a piece. Try to play something trickier, but there's nothing Magnus can really do. He's playing another Grandmaster, and his opponent gets the win. Magnus, I think, resigns in this position. 3 seconds left on his clock, but there's nothing you can really do. He's just going to promote one of these pawns. This pawn can never move forwards, and this rook is not really doing anything important. Thanks for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.